What's going on, guys? So today I am building some more arrows for my new 3D bow. I got kind of tired of switching back and forth between my hunting bow, setting it up for 3D. We've got turkey hunts coming up soon and I'm gonna have to change it back. So my father-in-law offered to sell me his old 3D bow. I went ahead and got it. Now this is kind of an older school bow. It's a 2014 PSC Dominator 3D Max. So basically I'm going to be making arrows for this bow today. Now I decided to go with Black Eagle. I really love their arrows. I've shot their Challenger target arrows before in the past. I'm gonna go with the PS23s. For my components, I'm going with Bushings with micro nocks. I got the smallest nock possible. I'm going with 120 grain points, but I'm throwing 10 grain brass weights inside of them to make it 130 grains total up front. That's going to make my spine right and keep me within that speed limit, the 285 speed limit for ASA. I'm going with some one stringer wraps, numbered, so you know what your arrow's doing. You can identify each separate arrow. Highly suggest that if you haven't done it. Also, One Stringer, very awesome website if you need any type of wraps or anything like that. You can't beat it. And finally, for the fletchings, going with Q2i's again. These are the Fusion SLs. So they are actually lower profile than their regular Fusions. These are 2.1 inches long. Now, when I received them, they're a little shorter than I kind of anticipated, I guess. Can you see this right here? Is it focused? I don't know if you can tell very well. Oh no. Okay, so if y'all can see this, it's a pretty short fletching, which I know that's usually what you run on 3D arrows, but it's a little shorter than I wanted. So I went ahead and ordered some of their, I believe they're the Fusion 2s, like the hunting ones, but in the 2.1 inch length. And they're in between the height of my hunting fletchings and these fletchings. I think it's like 0.48 inches, I believe. So, and these are 0.39. So a little taller. I think I'll like them a little better, but I'm gonna go ahead and fletch 3 arrows with these fletchings, these SLs, and we're gonna test them and see how they fly. I'm sure they'll do just fine. Now that we got all of the materials I'll be using covered, let's go ahead and get to the build. All right, first step, I am squaring the end of the arrow so that that tip sits perfectly flush inside the end. Now my nock end is already squared, so that's good right there. Now I'm just cleaning that excess carbon and the dust out of the ends of the arrow so that the glue will stick good. Usually I just take some acetone, give it a wipe, and then I'll take the dry end of the other Q-tip. Clean that out. Next step is going to be applying the wraps to the end of the arrows. I like wraps because I would much rather have to refletch all, or in this case I'm fletching these, rather than scrape super glue off the ends of the arrows. I do not like doing that at all. I'm not good at it. I've got this little scraper over here that takes forever. I put the wrap on a magazine. That gives it some give when you're rolling it rather than just on a hard surface. I find it a little easier doing it that way. So make sure you got your number side if you're using it up towards the top. Also clean the ends of the shaft that's going on. Make sure that there's no dust or anything on the end. Just like that. Next step is to insert the nocks into the bushings. Now, if you've ever done this before, you can get them about 3/4 of the way and they get pretty stuck. It's really tough to get them in there. If you use anything to press down on the nock itself, you'll break the little deals on the nock, the little edges. So the other day, I had something around me that ended up working very well. some tongs from the kitchen, all right? Make sure they work first. Then you're gonna put that nock, can you see it? Mm-hmm. Basically, set in between the tongs and then flush the bottom of that bushing on the flat part, like so. After that, gently press, boom, like a glove. Next, insert the bushing into the end of the shaft. Some people hot glue these in, others use the bag method. I prefer the bag method just because it's a little easier to remove these in the field if you need to, if it gets nicked up or something like that. And I don't have to go through the process of hot gluing them. So what that is, you're going to put the arrow inside of the bag, like so. Give a little bit of room above the arrow. Take your bushing and nock. Push that down in there just like that. Pull the bag over. Break off that bag. Then you're gonna pull off all the excess around it. This is gonna keep it in there very sturdy. Also allows you to turn your bushing and nock if you need to find that spine to align it with the spine. It's a little easier to move it, but it's not going anywhere after that. On to inserting the fill tips with the 3D arrow. I'm using a glue-in tip. I don't need a screw in. I'm not gonna be putting a broadhead on it, so it doesn't matter. I don't wanna have to jack with having to keep tightening it. And spinning the arrow. Spin your arrows, guys. This thing, Pine Ridge spinner, is like 14 or 15 bucks. You can get it online, probably even cheaper than that. But that's gonna show you how your arrow is in flight. You can see if you've got a little bit of a wobble to it, to the end, you can adjust that and fix that up. Especially if you're shooting broadheads, definitely spin your arrows. Once you've got it to where the arrow likes it best, where it does not wobble, you can take a Sharpie, mark a line. I don't know if you can see that very well. Mark a line so you know where it lines up, where that spins the best. It's easier to use a gold Sharpie, but I don't have one laying around. Black one works fine. You can see it on that carbon. Hot gluing the tips in. I've been messing around with this Gorilla Glue hot glue sticks. I've always used the Easton Hot Melt. You can just get it at Academy, but it's the same price as 30 Gorilla Glue sticks. I don't know if it's just because it says archery on it, or if it is better. I've used this not very long, but it's worked very well so far. Full disclosure, it does say on Black Eagle that they recommend not to hot glue in any of their arrows, any of the carbon arrows. So I don't recommend you do this, but it's what I do. I like being able to mess around with my front weight, mess around with nocks, everything like that. You just gotta make sure to keep your fingers at the end and make sure that it does not get super hot, because it will crack your arrow and mess up your arrow. So you gotta be careful. Again, I don't recommend it, but this is how I do it. Heat up the fill tip a little bit. Heat your glue up. Dab it around on there. Find where your mark is. Heat it back up just a little bit. When you put it on, make sure you rub it back and forth to get it in those grooves really well. Line it up. Press it in. Just like that. On to fletching the arrows. This is going to be the last part of the build. Like I said earlier, I'm going to be fletching these. I'm going to see if it helps the flight. Other than that, doesn't really hurt to have the extra weight because I'm at the top end of that speed limit. So I'm just gonna try it out. I think it looks cool too. I have found my favorite glue to be Gorilla Glue Super Glue Gel. Now it has to be the gel. Also Loctite Super Glue Gel. Pretty much any super glue gel is gonna do very well. These are the two I choose, and basically I went with the Loctite just because they have the nozzle I like. I really like the smaller nozzle and the points on the side that help to squeeze out the glue. The next thing I do is I take a Q-tip and some acetone. You can get this at Dollar General. This is what I clean everything with. Like I said, the inside of the shafts, the rafts, the fletchings, 100% acetone at the dollar store for like $1, so $1.99. And this lasts a while. I'll pour it in the cap and then take a Q-tip, go ahead and put my fletching in the jig. This is the Bits and Burger, one of my favorite jigs. I really like how consistent you can keep it. So I'm gonna line up where I like mine marked at. I take a Q-tip, stick it in the acetone, run it up and down that fletching one time. In my experience, this has helped with the veins stick to the wraps. On AAE Max, especially if you use those, this helped a ton. Rather than buying the AAE primer pin, I started using the acetone. I think it's the same thing, but this really helps with the stick. Also gets off any of your finger holes or dust or anything that could have collected on the inside of that vein. So I do one wipe on there. After that, take your super glue, I dot down the vein. After dotting down, I take the end of the nozzle, rub it up and down. I like to leave a good clump at the front and back end of that fletching, because that's where it's gonna peel up first. Then, put it on the jig. Press down. Now I press down with a good amount of pressure for about 5 to 7 seconds. After that, I let go and I let it sit for around 30 seconds after that. That's been the best for me. That's what's worked best. So after that's done, take the jig off, take another clean Q-tip, wipe down, get the front back in, turn it, wipe the other side. That'll get the excess glue off. Keep it all cleaned up, looking nice. All right, so there you have it. The finished product looks pretty good. I'm liking the colors. Coming in at 420 grains. I hope that puts me around 278 to 280 feet per second. All right, y'all, well, that's gonna conclude this arrow build for 3D. Super excited to see how these shoot. Very happy with how they turned out. If y'all want to see these in action, tomorrow I'm going out to Live Oak Archery out here in Bryan, Texas. I'm gonna be shooting these, tuning them, and getting them all sighted in, testing everything, and putting that on Instagram. So follow us at ExodusOutdoors on Instagram if you want to keep up with that. As always, thank y'all so much for watching and hope y'all have a blessed day.